It's time to cook with Susan Beck. Today we're going to make chocolate-covered raisin brownies, another one of my favorite bars. I posted my monster cookie bars a couple weeks ago, and now today I'm excited to show you my other favorite. Let's see what ingredients we need. For today's chocolate-covered raisin brownies, we need a half a stick of margarine, 2 squares of unsweetened chocolate, 2 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 cup sugar, half a cup of flour, half a cup of chocolate covered raisins, and a half a cup of chopped walnuts. Into my glass measuring cup, I am going to put the 2 squares of chocolate, as well as my stick of, I have margarine today, but margarine or butter. These 2 ingredients will be melted in the microwave before being incorporated with the sugar. As I do that, I will also turn my oven on and have it ready to go. My oven's preheating to 350 degrees, and the chocolate and the margarine are completely melted into a liquid. It took about 50 seconds in my microwave. I did stop and stir after 20 seconds and then again after 20 seconds just to kind of help that chocolate break up and make sure everything was going okay. So that is going to go into my mixing bowl, along with the 1 cup of sugar. Put my beater attachment on, raise up my bowl, and I'm ready to mix that together. I want that to cream together so my sugar starts to mix in well with the butter, and in this case the chocolate. That's a common way to start bars and cookies. I'll turn it up a little bit there and keep it going. The next thing that will go in are my 2 eggs. We'll go ahead and crack those. In goes the first egg and the second. Alright, we'll wait for those to be well mixed, and our next ingredient is a teaspoon of vanilla. Looking good there. We'll add our flour, lower that down to put that in. Only a half a cup of flour into this recipe. This will make an 8 by 8 pan, so it's not a large batch. You could double this and put it into a 9 by 13. All right, we'll start that a little bit slower so that we don't get the dust of the flour flying all over. There we go. Wipe down the sides here a little bit. Give it one more go. It's a pretty simple recipe here. Okay, so we're ready to add in our chocolate covered raisins and our walnuts, the goodies that always make these brownies extra tasty. I came across this recipe a few years ago, and I love chocolate covered raisins, so I thought this would be an ideal way to make brownies. Oh, that didn't want to sit up there. Okay, we'll try that again. So I have a half a cup of chocolate covered raisins. Now that chocolate will just kind of melt into the brownies when it's in the oven, but you'll still have that nice raisin there when you bite into these. All right, I'm going to chop my nuts a little bit. I've already measured out half a cup of those. And in go my walnuts. You could use pecans or some other kind of nut if you would like as well. So I'm just going to stir these by hand. And there's our batter with our chunks of raisins and walnuts. All right, we want a well-greased pan. Mine's a 9 by 9. The recipe calls by 8 by 8. I don't own an 8 by 8, so you can get by with either one. Okay, that looks rich and delicious. And I'll tell you, those raisins in there, they really do make this a very rich, decadent brownie. All right, and these go right into my oven. For the frosting, I'm just going to mix this by hand. So I have my melted butter. Into it goes my 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, my 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and a cup of powdered sugar. A pretty basic chocolate frosting recipe that could be used for any cake. All right, the recipe just calls for milk to moisten. Doesn't have an exact measurement, so I usually just do like a couple capfuls or a couple tablespoons at a time, being careful to not get it too runny. All right, that was 2 lidfuls of milk there, and that looks pretty good to me. I need to beat it a little bit more to break up that powdered sugar that gets a little clumpy at times, but otherwise I've got a nice little spoon right onto my brownies. I think that's a really good consistency when it drips off, yet is somewhat on the thicker side. Another tip, don't put your frosting onto your brownies until they've had a chance to cool. If for some reason, too, you end up with this too liquidy, maybe you get a little too much milk in, all you really need to do is add a little more powdered sugar, thicken it right back up, and it will be set to go again. Most of the time when I make frosting, it's just a combination of powdered sugar and milk until I get it to the right consistency, and sometimes I end up with a little extra frosting, but that's okay too. So I'm just waiting now for the brownies to finish cooking. All right, I'm just frosting these brownies, just about done with that. Time to give them a cut so that we can taste these gooey treats. I just love these brownies filled with multiple types of chocolate. We've got the unsweetened chocolate squares that went into the brownie itself. We've got the chocolate covered raisins and the cocoa powder that made up our frosting. The richness of those, they're really almost easier to eat with a fork than they are picking them up. They're so sweet. I love the crunch of those walnuts. And my favorite part is the chewiness of the raisins. You'll have to give this delicious brownie, this decadent brownie,